Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started.
Roman Reigns has been working a relatively lighter schedule in WWE ever since he became the Tribal Chief. The OG Bloodline leader has now set the record straight on his status. Roman Reigns is preparing to headline his 10th WrestleMania main event when he faces Seth Rollins and CM Punk in a triple threat match on April 19. The upcoming match will test the only Tribal Chief's patience, as he won't have his wise men in his corner for the first time in many years. Paul Heyman will walk down the aisle with CM Punk after 12 years at WrestleMania 41. Ahead of this highly anticipated matchup, Roman Reigns took to his X, formerly Twitter, handle to upload a video of himself to clarify his working schedule. Reigns stated that he is not a part-timer, despite much speculation. He called himself a full-time cash cow and said WWE lives off him. It's funny because a lot of people call me a part-timer. A lot of people got a lot of things to say about my schedule. I'm no part-timer, I'm a full-time cash cow. Every second that I'm breathing, I'm working. That's how this whole thing works. Proof of concept. This business lives off me. Don't ever get it confused. Every second that I'm breathing, I'm working, Reigns said. Has Roman Reigns ended things with Paul Heyman just days before WWE WrestleMania 41? During the go-home episode of WWE Raw before WrestleMania 41, Roman Reigns did the unthinkable when he put his hands on his wise men. The only Tribal Chief shoved Paul Heyman to the group during a scuffle with CM Punk and Seth Rollins. This comes after Heyman confirmed he will be in CM Punk's corner at WrestleMania 41. At the end of the night, the Visionary stood tall over Reigns and Punk after smashing the Bloodline Kingpin with a steel chair, a callback to the Shield breakup from 2014. The atmosphere inside the WWE Thunderdome was electric. The audience buzzed with anticipation, their voices rising in unison with chants of Tribal Chief. Tribal Chief. The stage was set for something monumental, and when the lights dimmed and the haunting notes of Roman Reigns' entrance theme hit, the crowd erupted. Reigns walked down the ramp with his usual stoic confidence, Paul Heyman clutching the undisputed championship behind him. He looked leaner, more intense, his eyes carrying the weight of something deeper than his usual bravado. Gone was the swagger of a man invincible at the top. Tonight, he carried the aura of a man with something to say, something that could shake the very foundations of WWE. He stepped into the ring, took the mic, and let the crowd roar before raising a hand. Instant silence. For nearly 4 years, Roman began, I've stood at the head of the table. I've carried this company through uncertainty, through change, through eras. From the pandemic era to WrestleMania main events, I've smashed everyone put in front of me. And I did it not for me, but for this business. For the bloodline. For my legacy. The camera panned to Heyman, who looked like he'd swallowed a rock. Roman's tone was unfamiliar, emotional, sincere, almost farewell-like. But even the strongest kings, Roman continued, know when it's time to step away from the battlefield. A hushed silence blanketed the arena. Some fans gasped, others simply stared, confused. Roman nodded slowly, processing the weight of his words before continuing. I've been battling an injury for months, he revealed, and I've kept pushing through it because that's what a Tribal Chief does. But the time has come for me to acknowledge something else. I need to step back. Not forever. But long enough to heal. Mentally, physically, spiritually. The WWE Universe was stunned. I've spoken to Triple H. I've spoken to the board. And effective after tonight, I am vacating the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. A loud no echoed across the crowd, some fans visibly heartbroken, some even in tears. Roman placed the title on the mat with reverence, looking down at it like a fallen comrade. This title. It made me. And I made it. I elevated it to heights unseen. But I know that for it to thrive, it must be defended. And I can't give it that right now. Heyman stepped forward, clearly distressed. My Tribal Chief, please, there has to be another way. Roman shook his head. There's no other way, wise man. This is the path of a real leader. Then he looked directly into the camera. To the ones in the locker room thinking this is your chance? Think again. I'm not going away. I'll still be watching. Still be influencing. And when the time is right, the bloodline will rise again. Suddenly, Solo Sikoa's music hit. The enforcer of the bloodline stepped into the ring with Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga flanking him. Solo stared at Roman, his expression unreadable. Big Oos, Solo said, raising a mic. You stepping down. That means one thing. Roman looked at him, curious. It's my time now. The crowd reacted with a mix of shock and intrigue. Jacob and Thomas stood behind Solo like a new guard rising to power. Roman nodded slowly, a smirk teasing the corner of his lips. Then prove it. Without another word, Roman exited the ring, walking past the new faction. As he disappeared up the ramp, the lights dimmed and spotlighted the title left in the center of the ring, abandoned, yet more powerful than ever. Backstage, chaos unfolded. Jey Uso was seen watching the announcement from a monitor, his face a mix of disbelief and defiance. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and even Randy Orton were reportedly in meetings with Triple H about the now vacant title picture. The power vacuum Roman left behind created instant shockwaves throughout WWE. Later in the evening, Triple H addressed the WWE Universe Live. In light of Roman Reigns vacating the Undisputed Championship, he said, "We will crown a new champion at WWE King and Queen of the Ring in a historic 8-man tournament featuring former champions, rising stars, and perhaps a surprise or two." The bracket, revealed moments later, featured names like Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Gunther Louisiana Knight, AJ Styles, and Solo Sikoa. The final spot was left as mystery entrant. Speculation ran wild. Was this all a ruse? Would Roman Reigns be that surprise entrant? Would The Rock emerge to reclaim the family legacy? Could it be Brock Lesnar seeking one last dominant run? But as days passed, Roman stayed silent. No cryptic tweets. No Instagram posts. No backstage leaks. Paul Heyman, usually a fountain of verbal gymnastics, refused to comment when cornered by Kayla Braxton. "We are all processing this in real time," he said simply. "The tribal chief has made his decision. And when he returns, you'll know." In the weeks following, WWE programming leaned heavily into the post-Roman era. But it didn't feel like a goodbye, it felt like the eye of a storm. Back in Pensacola, Florida, Roman Reigns was reportedly seen training with renewed focus. Sources close to his family hinted that he wasn't done, just rebuilding. Reforging. And one evening, on a silent Sunday night, WWE's official account posted a simple video. Just 30 seconds. A burning table, Roman's voice layered over it. "This isn't the end of my reign. This is just the intermission." Fade to black. A single word on screen, SummerSlam. The WWE Universe collectively gasped. Roman Reigns might have stepped away from the battlefield. But make no mistake, the tribal chief was far from finished. And when he returned, it wouldn't be to reclaim his seat. It would be to rebuild the kingdom from fire. And perhaps, to crush whoever dared sit at the head of his table. 3 signs Roman Reigns will turn heel at WWE WrestleMania 41. WWE superstar Roman Reigns will be heading to his 11th WrestleMania main event in Las Vegas in a few days. The tribal chief will face his sworn enemies, CM Punk and Seth Rollins, in a highly anticipated triple threat match. Interestingly, there is a chance that the OTC could turn heel at this year's show of shows. Here are 3 signs that hint at his imminent heel turn. 3. Roman Reigns believes he is getting wet over by everyone. Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman did an in-ring segment on this week's episode of Raw. The head of the table spoke to his Wiseman, whom he saw hanging out with CM Punk moments before the promo. The OG Bloodline leader noted that if it was the WWE Hall of Famer who owed the favor to the Second City Saint, why was he bearing its cost? The OTC didn't acknowledge Heyman for making a deal with Punk to help him in the Bloodline Civil War in the War Games match at Survivor Series last year. Realistically, the Wiseman is directly responsible for Reigns winning the Ula Fala back from Solo Sikoa. Thus, instead of seeing this as the Hall of Famer making a contribution and holding up his end of the deal with CM Punk, Reigns is just thinking about himself. He even told Heyman that he never needed the help of the straight-edge superstar anyway, invalidating the Wiseman's efforts. 2. Roman Reigns put his hands on Paul Heyman. Roman Reigns has a notorious history of turning on the members of the OG bloodline if they go against his wishes. After punishing Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso in the past, it was Paul Heyman's turn on this week's episode of Raw. Seth Rollins had interrupted the segment between Reigns and Heyman to point out that the Wiseman wasn't compelled to support CM Punk. Rather, he was choosing to do so of his own volition. The OTC agreed with his former Shield mate but punched him in the face immediately after. Delighted, the Hall of Famer joined his hands and smiled at his tribal chief. However, in return, Reigns shoved Heyman in the face, causing him to fall. This was a shocking moment and is a big sign signaling his imminent heel turn. 1. Roman Reigns got hit by a steel chair in the back by Seth Rollins once again. During his conversation with Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns highlighted that the bloodline never took favors from anybody. Instead, he and his faction simply subjugated and took what they wanted. Moreover, instead of launching a reactionary attack, the head of the table was seen making the first move on Seth Rollins. CM Punk entered the arena right after the tribal chief put his hands on the Wiseman. After sending the OTC outside the ring, the Second City Saint checked on his best friend. However, Roman Reigns took this small window of distraction as a chance to land a spear on the straight-edge superstar. While this indicates that Reigns is no longer concerned with being the good guy, all of this was topped by Seth Rollins, who hit the tribal chief in the back with a steel chair. The chair shot served as an instant reminder of the Architect's betrayal when he broke up the Shield. Thus, the OG Bloodline leader has more reason to let his dark side take over and turn heel at WrestleMania 41. It will be interesting to see who can win the triple threat match between Rollins, Reigns, and Punk. For over a decade, Roman Reigns has evolved before our very eyes, from a silent powerhouse in the Shield to the polarizing big dog, and ultimately, the dominant tribal chief. But now, after nearly 4 years of ruling WWE as a heel, fans are starting to feel a change in the wind. While Reigns technically already walks the villain's path, recent events hint at something darker, more sinister on the horizon. A new heel turn, not just of his character, but of his loyalty, control, and legacy, may be brewing. Here are 3 signs that Roman Reigns is about to turn heel once again, in a way that could shake the WWE universe to its core. 1. Reigns will betray Paul Heyman and declare himself above the wise man. Paul Heyman has been the voice behind the tribal chief since 2020. His chilling promos and unwavering loyalty have made him an indispensable piece of Roman's empire. But lately, Roman has shown signs of annoyance, even subtle disrespect, toward the man who once guided Brock Lesnar to historic success. In recent weeks, Reigns has started interrupting Heyman mid-sentence, rolling his eyes at his counsel, and making decisions independently of his wise man. That's not the Roman we've seen during the Bloodline's most dominant reign. This is a new Roman, one who believes his success no longer requires Paul Heyman's guidance. Backstage whispers in WWE circles suggest Reigns may soon declare that he is the new wise man, rendering Heyman obsolete. The betrayal would be monumental. Not only would Roman sever his most iconic partnership, but he would cement a new version of his character, not the tribal chief who listens to counsel, but the emperor of ego, a tyrant who trusts no one. This evolution would make Reigns more dangerous than ever. And a shocking Samoan spike to Heyman, courtesy of Solo Sikoa under Roman's command, could be the spark that ignites the flame. 2. The return of the Shield mentality, ruthless, unhinged, and out for revenge. When Seth Rollins betrayed the Shield in 2014, it haunted Roman Reigns. He rose as a solo act, but never quite escaped the shadow of the betrayal. Now, nearly a decade later, Reigns may be planning to rewrite history. Recently, on WWE Raw, Rollins made subtle references to Reigns in interviews, stating that the real world champion fights every week. Reigns has remained silent, but silence from the tribal chief is never a sign of weakness. It's the calm before the storm. What if Reigns hasn't forgotten Rollins shattering the Brotherhood? What if his 4-year dominance has all been building toward a brutal, calculated return to his Shield roots, but with a villainous twist? Roman may soon embrace the unhinged, relentless brawler he once was. Only this time, without the Brotherhood, without the camaraderie. Just pain, destruction, and a thirst for retribution. A heel turn, in this case, wouldn't be about turning against the fans, it would be turning on everything and everyone from his past. Including Seth Rollins. Imagine this, Reigns invades Monday Night Raw, ambushes Rollins backstage, and ends the night by standing over him with the World Heavyweight Championship in hand, not to claim it, but to prove that no title, no Shield brother, and no brand is safe from him. 3. He will dismantle the new bloodline to rebuild a kingdom of fear. The current bloodline, led by Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu, has shown signs of separating from Roman's original vision. With Reigns absent, Solo's power has grown unchecked. Fatu is undefeated. Tama Tonga and Tangaloa have added brute force. The faction is evolving, but not under Roman's rule. That's unacceptable for the tribal chief. Reigns' return will likely start with celebration, but it won't take long before the cracks begin to show. The bloodline has thrived in Roman's absence, and that bruises the ego of a man who demands absolute control. Roman's next heel evolution could see him turning on his own blood, methodically picking apart the empire he built. Why? To remind them, and the world, who the true head of the table is. He might not challenge them directly. Reigns is smarter than that. He could manipulate them into self-destruction, using fear and intimidation until Solo doubts his own authority and Jacob Fatu questions his place in the pecking order. And then, at the peak of tension, Roman strikes. A Superman punch to Solo. A spear to Fatu. A cold, unforgiving stare at Tama Tonga as he whispers, "This is still my island." Roman could reform the bloodline in his own twisted image, not as a family, but as a cult of fear, recruiting those willing to serve without question. Names like Braun Breaker or Carmelo Hayes could be seduced into the darkness, creating a new faction that respects only one rule: acknowledge Reigns or perish. Final thoughts. Roman Reigns has already etched his name into WWE history. But legends don't settle for the past. They rewrite the future. The signs are there: tension with Heyman, unfinished business with Rollins, and an empire he no longer fully controls. The next evolution of Roman Reigns isn't about becoming heel, it's about becoming uncontrollable. In his new form, Roman won't be a tribal chief. He'll be something darker. A warlord with no morals, a former hero who saw the throne was never enough. He'll burn the kingdom he built. Not for gold, not for glory. But to prove that even in chaos, he still reigns. Let me know if you want a continuation with reactions from other WWE superstars or fan fallout.